In 54 CE, a 16-year-old boy became the most powerful man in the world. Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus stood before the Roman Senate, his curly hair carefully arranged, his voice trembling slightly as he promised to restore their authority and bring peace to the empire. The senators applauded enthusiastically. Citizens celebrated in the streets. Finally, after years of paranoid emperors and palace intrigue, Rome had a young, generous ruler who seemed to genuinely care about his people. Taxes were reduced. Lavish games filled the Colosseum. Gladiatorial contests ran for weeks. But behind those innocent eyes lurked something dark, a heritage of violence that would transform this promising young emperor into history's most notorious tyrant. How did the boy who sang and played the lyre become the man who murdered his own mother and watched Rome burn? The answer begins with his father, Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus, a man so violent that when friends congratulated him on Nero's birth in 37 CE, he responded that anything born to him and Agrippina would be unlikable and a disaster. This wasn't idle talk. Gnaeus once deliberately drove his chariot over a young boy just for sport. When he died 3 years later, young Nero was left in the hands of something even more dangerous: his mother's ambition. Agrippina the Younger was the great-granddaughter of Emperor Augustus himself, descended from a family where violence was currency and survival meant being more ruthless than your enemies. Her grandmother and mother had been starved to death. Her brothers were murdered by Emperor Tiberius. Her youngest brother, Caligula, became emperor before being assassinated by his own guards. She had learned one brutal lesson: in Rome, you either held power or you died. In 49 CE, Agrippina made her move. She seduced her uncle, Emperor Claudius, married him, and immediately demanded he adopt her 12-year-old son. Nero became heir to the throne, pushing aside Claudius's legitimate son Britannicus. But adoption wasn't enough. She needed Claudius dead before he could change his mind. On an autumn evening in 54 CE, Claudius sat down to his favorite meal, mushrooms. Within hours, he was dead. The evidence pointed to poison, though no one dared accuse the new emperor's mother. Nero later joked that mushrooms must be the food of the gods since they had made him divine. At 16, he wore the purple toga of supreme power. And standing behind his throne, whispering in his ear, controlling every decision, was Agrippina. She had created an emperor. What she didn't realize was that she had also created her own executioner. For the first 5 years, Nero seemed to justify the Senate's hopes. He restored much of their lost authority, though this had a hidden purpose, freeing him to pursue his true passion, performing. The young emperor believed himself to be a great artist. He sang at private concerts, played the lyre, and wrote poetry. When he performed, no one in the audience was permitted to leave. Guards locked the doors. Women gave birth during his hours-long recitals. Men pretended to die just so they could be carried out. One historian recorded that people furtively dropped down from the wall at the rear and were carried away for burial just to escape his voice. But Nero's artistic delusions were nothing compared to the storm brewing at home. Agrippina still believed she controlled the empire, boasting openly about her influence. She sat beside him at official functions. Her face appeared on coins next to his. She was the true emperor and everyone knew it, everyone except Nero. In 59 CE, Nero decided his mother had to die. He planned it with the precision of a military campaign, even importing specialists from Alexandria to help design the murder weapons. First attempt: an elaborate collapsing ceiling above her bed. Too complicated, it couldn't be installed without detection. Second attempt: a specially designed boat that would sink beneath her. She escaped, swimming to shore through the cold waters of the Bay of Naples. As she reached the beach, dripping and furious, Nero realized there was only one option left, the simplest one. He sent soldiers to her villa. They found Agrippina in her bedroom, and according to witnesses, her final words were chilling. Pointing to her womb, she told them, Strike here, strike the womb that bore such a monster. They did. The woman who had poisoned an emperor, who had manipulated her way to ultimate power, died on her son's orders. Nero was finally free, but the guilt would haunt him forever. On July 19, 64 CE, fire broke out in the merchant quarter near the Circus Maximus. Fanned by summer winds, it spread with terrifying speed. For 6 days and 7 nights, Rome burned. 10 of the city's 14 districts were destroyed. Hundreds died. Thousands became homeless. And throughout it all, one question echoed through the streets: where was Nero? Some claimed he watched from the Tower of Maecenas, dressed in theatrical costume, singing about the fall of Troy while his capital city burned. Others insisted he was in Antium, 35 miles away, rushing back to coordinate relief efforts. The truth remains uncertain, but the result was catastrophic. Romans needed someone to blame, and Nero gave them a scapegoat: the Christians. Members of this new religious sect were rounded up, covered in pitch, and set ablaze as human torches to light his gardens. But the real revelation came when Nero unveiled his plans for rebuilding, including a massive golden palace covering 300 acres, with gold-plated ceilings, rooms that rotated, and even a lake in the center of Rome. Suddenly, everyone understood. The fire had cleared space for the emperor's ultimate vanity project. The Golden Palace bankrupted Rome. To pay for his extravagance, Nero raised taxes across the empire, triggering rebellions in Britain, Judea, and Gaul. In 65 CE, senators launched the Piso conspiracy, a plot to assassinate him and install a new emperor. When it failed, 41 people were executed, including Nero's own advisor Seneca, forced to cut his wrists in a warm bath. By 68 CE, the empire was in chaos. The army revolted. The Senate declared Nero an enemy of the state and named Galba as the new emperor. On June 9, hiding in his freedman's villa, Nero finally faced reality. He pressed a dagger to his throat but couldn't find the courage to push. His secretary had to help guide the blade. His last words captured everything about his reign: "What an artist dies in me." He was 30 years old. Citizens poured into the streets wearing caps of liberty, celebrating like freed slaves. The Julio-Claudian dynasty, which had begun with the great Augustus, ended with an emperor who believed being a good performer mattered more than being a good ruler. Can we separate the art from the artist? Nero saw himself as a misunderstood creative genius, forced to rule when he should have been singing. Yet his art came at the cost of thousands of lives, a burned capital, and an empire pushed to the brink of collapse. Today, we still debate whether talent excuses terrible behavior, whether genius justifies cruelty. Nero's answer was clear. He would rather be remembered as an artist than an emperor. 2,000 years later, we remember him as both: the singing tyrant who proved that even unlimited power cannot force people to appreciate your performance. Let us know in the comments, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.